Hi, this is Joe Rabil from Rabil Stock Research with your Daily 5. On today's show, I'm going to take a look at the energy stocks showing signs of improvement and starting to look attractive. I'm going to start with the crude oil chart and then get into the 5 stocks that I think are looking interesting in this energy space. So let's go ahead and get started with the crude light chart. Now, I did want to show that I've got these 4 timeframes up in ACP, and these 3 charts. So this is the monthly here, this is the weekly here, and this is the daily. Now they're all the same in terms of the indicators. And if you wanted to reproduce this, it's pretty easy to do. If you go up on the left and hit the chart template, you can actually go into scroll down to the bottom and click on experts. And you'll see my name right there. You can click on, so you click on whatever chart you want and then click on my name and it'll produce this chart right here. So you could do that 3 times and have that up there in probably a couple minutes, just so you know. All right. Now, what I like about this crude, I've been watching this longer term pattern because I deal with a lot of institutions that are constantly asking me about what I'm thinking in the energy space. And one of the things I've noticed is this area here that it was attempting to breach, but I felt like there was this too much support underneath this area for it to really break down and decline. And if you notice the way this came down to the zero line, the MACD, it was very overbought when you look at it in 22, right? And then it came down and it's been finding support. It's been more of like a horizontal move and a double bottom forming on the MACD on the monthly chart. The other thing that I would point out is you got this massive decline. It went from 125 down to whatever it was, 60 or 70. And the MACD, the ADX never got the negative DI really going to the upside. It did cross above green, but it never got above 25 and it never really took over. So the sellers never really took over to any significant degree. And now, again, we've got this MACD starting to turn at the zero line and price is getting back through its key moving averages, the 18 and the 40-month simple moving averages. So I kind of like the look of that from a bigger picture standpoint. Now, one thing I'll say is that we've got low ADX on both the monthly and the weekly charts for the crude. All right. Now, this holds true for a lot of the energy stocks as well. I actually think that's a bullish thing because, again, we've been going through a declining phase and correcting. It's just not a lot of selling strength. So the ADX has been low. So we're in a low ADX condition on both of these timeframes. And now look at what's happening on the daily chart. You see how the ADX is starting to kick into gear. So since the beginning of the year, the ADX has been low on the daily chart. And now we're starting to see some potential strength in the trend on the daily. So a lot of times what will happen is it'll start on the daily and then filter its way down to the weekly, and then it'll get to have an influence on the monthly. So it tends to start with the smaller time frames and then expand to the bigger time frames. So I view this as a pretty good sign when we have low ADX in 3 time frames and then the small time frame starts to kick into gear based on the buyers. I think that's a bullish sign. All right, let's start looking at a couple of these individual stocks. So I'm going to start with the big guy, Conoco here. And this is sort of my favorite of the big integrateds. And my reasoning, so there's a couple things I look at. And one of the patterns from my course is this reverse divergence where we get a higher bottom forming in price and a lower bottom forming in MACD. And if you notice, we've got a lot of strength in the buyers. So the green line is the buyers and the red line is the sellers. And it has stayed throughout this whole sort of consolidation phase. The green has stayed above red. So I think this is looking pretty attractive. We pulled back to the 18-month and got a really strong green bar developing here. So I like the look of that. I also like the fact that the MACD has crossed back above its, on the weekly chart, has crossed back above the zero line and is above its signal line. So we can look for any kind of little check back here on a pullback over the course of the next few weeks, potentially. Even if there's a little bit more follow through, this could carry a little bit higher and then look for some kind of a pullback. I think that would look pretty attractive. Now, What I mentioned in the crude is that we had a low ADX condition on the monthly and the weekly. In this case, we really only have low ADX on the weekly chart, but look at the strength developing on the daily. It's very similar to what's going on in crude. So we can look for a pullback a little bit closer to support, which is essentially what I was saying on the weekly chart. I think if we get that, I would be looking for that as a buying chance. Okay, let's look at this DK. Now, this is an E&P company, but showing again some very attractive qualities. I love this pattern on a monthly where we've got these, this sideways consolidation with kind of small bars, right? And then we get this big green bar to show up after this long sideways consolidation. Now, notice MACD has been holding the zero line and green has been staying above red. So the buyers have maintained control of this. There's just not a lot of strength in the selling during this consolidation phase. Now, if we go to the weekly, we've got a low ADX pattern where, we're essentially building energy for a new move. All right. And again, I view this constructively, especially based on what the MACD is doing. You see how the MACD was up and now it's consolidating, but it's holding the zero line. I think that's a sign of real strength here. And again, now on the daily chart, we're seeing a good volume pattern and improvement on a momentum basis. So this is another one where I think it makes sense after the run that it's had to look for a little check back to the buy area or to the breakout area under 30. So if we can get a little dip here, I would view that as a interesting opportunity, something I'd be stalking right now. Now look at HLX. This is a oil equipment services stock. So if you notice, I'm bringing up all these different areas, different industry groups inside of the sector. It's not just coming from one area. Now let's look at the monthly real quick. Look at what this has done. Nice move, started with the big green bar, had to move up and then rallied up. And now we're kind of up into this area. But notice the way it's handling it. When you go up into a resistance area like this, what you're trying to avoid is this kind of a drop. You see these kind of violent drops? This is not happening here. This is the first time we've reached this area and it's been a really mild sideways consolidation. MACD still above its signal line and ADX is showing a lot of strength. All right, now that's on the monthly. The weekly chart is one of my favorite patterns that I talk a lot about in my course, which is a zero line reversal with low ADX. All right, we've got a consolidation pattern that has taken place, but the sellers are just not that strong. So we get a low ADX condition. And then the MACD line works off the overbought condition, stays above the zero line, and then starts to turn up just above it. So I like that. I also like the fact that the ADX is kicking into gear here on the low time frame. All right. So we've got strength on the momentum on the monthly. We've got a low ADX pattern on the weekly, but I'm showing how that's bullish. And then on the daily chart, we're starting to kick into gear. Really nice combination when you're looking at ADX. All right, so this is another E&P company, but this is more of a gas stock. All right, now look at what's going on here. This has been a long sideways basing pattern, but we're starting to maintain the 18-month line, and the MACD, which was really low, is now maintaining the zero line. All right, so those are both really constructive things taking place on the bigger time frame. And then on the weekly chart, we've got this same pattern with MACD, which was overbought, and then it's worked its way back down towards zero. We've got our reverse divergence setting up right above the zero line. And again, green is holding above red, meaning the buyers are still stronger than the sellers through this pattern. And we've got an improving ADX condition with a rising ADX in place. So I like the look of this. Another one that I'd probably say we've got strength here. Maybe we can get a little bit of a dip or pullback as an opportunity. And now finally, I've got another integrated guy, a little bit on the smaller side for the big integrateds, but same sort of pattern. Monthly chart showed strength and it has been consolidating. MACD has been working off the overbought condition without breaking the zero line, which I view as being a really strong sign. And then we're sort of breaking out of this big basing pattern and we're showing nice strength on an ADX. Now, I've been mentioning the ADX and showing the green DI. There's a high correlation between ADX and green DI and the volume pattern. All right. You see how this is the average volume bar, moving average. And all these green bars above the average is showing there's pretty good buying taking place here. So I think this is pretty attractive. And I think these 5 stocks are definitely worth investigating and maybe stalking for a little bit of a pullback. So I hope you enjoyed this segment. You can contact me through LinkedIn, Twitter, or find my research on rabilstockresearch.com. In addition, if you'd like to learn more about ADX and MACD in multiple time frames, I am offering my book in a PDF format at a discount. You can go to rabilstockresearch.com/book for more information. Have a great trading day, and I'll see you next time.